Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. Well, today's guest is Guy Anderson. Today, we're going to talk about one of his books called Conspiracy Theories From A to Z. We're going to be some amazing stories on this podcast today. Can we please welcome Guy to the show? Hello there.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. What inspired you to explore such a wide spectrum of conspiracy theories in one book?
Well, it's an A to Z. So it's based upon my posts from Facebook and my blogs on my website. And people asked me if I'd considered putting it into a book, turning it into, I suppose, bite-sized nuggets covering different conspiracy theories. So it wasn't supposed to be a book. People just asked me if I'd considered putting my posts and blogs into one thing so they could read them.
Oh, that's good. Lots of theories about the royal family and about Diana. What's your theory on that then?
On which one? On the royal family or on Princess Diana?
On about Diana.
My theory on her, well, I don't believe it was an accident.
Yeah. See, the government were involved.
Well, when you say the government, I mean, the government's controlled by the Rothschilds. The royal family are Rothschilds. So really, it's the Rothschilds ultimately that are controlling it all. Yes, absolutely. She was more popular than the rest of the royal family and allegedly carrying Dodi Fayad's unborn child, which would have caused an incredible problem. So yes, I don't think it was an accident. And the interesting thing with that particular subject is that people often say to me, you're a conspiracy theorist. You think things are a conspiracy. And I ask them what they think about Princess Diana's death. And most people will say, well, I don't think it was an accident. So I always say, well, you're a conspiracy theorist too, then, aren't you?
Yeah, do you think the I'm going to say 5 or MI6 arranged something there for the crash?
Well, I don't know who arranged it, but obviously, everything's controlled ultimately through think tanks and then at the very top, the Rothschilds. So whether it's MI5, MI6, the government, French Secret Service, it's all the Rothschilds at the end of the day. And the royal family are Rothschilds, so they're not going to want, that kind of controversial, potentially controversial pregnancy.
Yes,
Actually,
they was trying to blame the driver, won't they?
Yeah. Obviously, they're not going to put their hands up and admit what they've done. That they're never going to do that. But it would. Can you imagine the future king of England having a half Muslims, half brother? That would have caused all sorts of issues.
I'm sure it would have done.
Yeah. So I mean, it shouldn't have, and it shouldn't, but it would have done.
Another theory is about Diana and all that. The emergency services was delayed treatment with that purpose.
Oh, sorry, was that on purpose?
Yeah.
Well, what we do know is that she walked out of the car and walked into the ambulance. She stepped into it. So she was fully conscious and walking after the accident. It took them an incredible amount of time, 45 minutes, didn't it, to actually get her into the hospital. So, so obviously she was either replaced during the trip and she was taken off elsewhere, or they drove around long enough to, make sure that when she arrived, she wasn't in a position to survive.
There were lots of things that were happening at that time in the tunnel, where everything just seemed to be, and I think it was the 13th column what it collided into.
Yeah. So, you could say that actually what happened there was ritualistic and she was a sacrifice. That's a spin that some people have put onto this. But we always hear the same things, just with similar events that take place. Epstein being for one. There's always an issue with the CCTV when something like
Yes.
this occurs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange how things like that happen. I remember it to this day. I was in a cafe at that time at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was in between jobs and I opened this cafe for fishermen in sunny Briglington, and I put it on, and it came on at that time in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. We thought it was surreal. We thought that what we were seeing wasn't real, wasn't really happening. And we used to live near her. We drank in the same pub as her when she was younger.
Oh my God. Do you think key witnesses were silenced then?
If there were any, there would have been, yeah, absolutely. But they may well have sealed it off because clearly it was a staged event. So my guess is they probably had sealed the tunnel off or stopped people from getting in it in some way. And yes, they definitely silenced people. They've done it for a lot less.
Funny, everywhere they went, paparazzi was following them, but some unknown reason they weren't around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It shows you, doesn't it, the power and the level of control that these people have.
Oh, they must have had lots of power in them days. And
Well,
like
they
you said, because
do now.
they were thinking that she was pregnant.
But it's just,
hell loose.
yeah, but it's the same people running the world today as it was then. It's the same family, so the control's very much still there. It's probably stronger now than it ever has been.
Yeah, we never actually got to the bottom of it, did they? It was just seems to brush under the carpet. That's it. She died. He was drunk at the wheel. That were it.
Yeah, and if you look, there's footage of the children looking at the flowers, and you'll see William laughing at one point. Someone says something and he starts laughing. These aren't two children that have lost their mother. So my gut says that she's still around. She's still here. They've just moved her on. Changed her identity. She's gone off to live somewhere else. Dye your hair, have a nose job, add a bit of age, and people aren't going to necessarily recognize her.
Yeah, exactly. That I'm with you there on that one as well. It was like Hitler. He disappeared. Did he go to Argentina?
Yeah, he
That
went to
was all.
Argentina.
I mean, that was planned, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, but he was a Rothschild, so that was all planned. He worked with Churchill. They weren't enemies. They worked together.
Yeah, that somebody told me that.
Yeah, yeah. So the Second World War was designed to remove Tartaria, what was left of Tartaria, and the people. So they bombed themselves, quite literally bombed themselves, but kept their favourite buildings. They didn't want to damage any of their own buildings, so they just got rid of everything else. And as you probably know from the Blitz, the area that was hit the most was the East End of London, not the docks, but actually the East End. And it happened to be a very large area of land that a couple of people, one called Goldfinger, the other called Abercrombie, wanted to redevelop, and they'd been refused. The public had kicked back and said that we don't want our land redeveloped. We want to stay living where we are.
Right.
We don't want to live in social housing, and it was exactly that area that got bombed.
Right. There's a question here from Dragon. If she's still here, why does Harry go on about her endlessly, and Meghan claims to channel her in spirit?
Okay, Meghan channels her in spirit. Okay, well, I can't answer that one because obviously that's a bit different, isn't it?
It is different,
if she's still here, so what we're saying is, why doesn't Harry tell the world that she's not dead? Well, I suppose he doesn't want to have a problem himself. Why would he go around saying things that are going to cause him and his wife a problem? You can imagine if he exposed something like that. But of
Oh,
course, he was a lot younger then. I think William was more aware of what was going on. Harry was still
yeah.
very young, so he may well not know. He seems to be a little disconnected from the royal family. But as for why does he go on about her endlessly? I'd imagine he misses her.
Bound to do, aren't you?
Hmm.
Bound
Yeah,
to miss
because
your mother.
even if she's still here, it doesn't mean he knows that, and it doesn't mean he gets to see her whenever he likes, even if he does know. But the Meghan claiming to channel a spirit, that's not an area for me, I'm afraid.
No, it's not for me. No, no. I was going to ask you about. What about the Twin Towers? Were they demolished with explosives?
Oh yeah, absolutely, because it wasn't just the two towers that fell. So we obviously, if you look at what happened, that isn't how a building falls, and it doesn't fall in that way. And they were designed to be hit by a plane. That was actually put into the architectural plans and
Right.
blueprints. So no, I mean, most people would consider it to be an insurance job, but it wasn't. That was a smokescreen taking out the terrorism policy just weeks before it happened. Is just a smokescreen. The real reason, and anybody that's sort of dug into this already knows this, is that they needed to justify what happened
Going to
next in the
war.
Middle East. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they needed to get Gilgamesh's tomb. They needed to get the tomb, so they had to do what they did.
I know because got a little bit here. Jet fuel can't melt steel.
No, no, it can't.
You know,
No,
there must be
we
lots
need
of theories.
4,000 degrees. We
Yeah.
need 4,000 degrees to be able to do that. So no, they were controlled explosions, and if you look at the footage, it's exactly the same process, follows the same pattern as a controlled demolition. And of course, people have now shown evidence that the structure itself was cut in numerous places. And as I said a moment ago, it wasn't just the two towers, was it?
No.
The third building fell. 7 buildings in total were damaged as a direct result, or completely collapsed. So no, it's controlled demolition. You can see that from
And
watching the
another thing is
footage.
they're on about a plane didn't hit the Pentagon.
No, no, that doesn't look like it did. No, there's no evidence to suggest a plane hit anything. That was another controlled explosion.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder. Well, they did it because they wanted to go to war, didn't they?
Yeah, because they needed Gilgamesh's tomb. Yeah.
And I think when he whispered in his ear, I thought, my God,
Mm.
telling him that, but the Twin Towers had gone down or whatever, and I thought, my God, he knew what was happening.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But he's going to do what he's told as well. So they're all just following a script. They're all puppets. So yeah, he didn't look surprised at all. But you got the Rothschilds pulling their strings, so they're just going to do whatever they're told to do. No different to Trump or Starmer. They just do what they're told.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us a bit about Operation Paperclip.
Right. Is that something you particularly?
I
Is
like
that
a
a
bit of
particular
also.
favourite of yours? So
Well, a
what?
bit
So
of everything, yes.
yeah, it's an interesting subject, isn't it? Um, Most people know bits and pieces of it, but a lot of files have now been released, so you can find out quite a lot about it online. But it's something that fascinates me, and that whole period of time too. Having looked into at length. Is there any particular aspects of it that you would like me to dig into?
Um, let's have a look. Um, Lots of different things, really.
Which one springs in your head when someone mentions Operation Paperclip? Which What
Common
is it?
myths and realities.
Pardon?
Myths and realities about what happened at Operation Paperclip and why did it happen?
What do you mean? Why did it happen?
Well, with the scientists.
Why did they bring the scientists over?
Yes.
Well, the official narrative is that they would rather they had them than the Russians have had them. But they needed the scientists because that's when in America, that's when they started cloning, en masse, at least in the modern
Yeah.
way that they clone. But also they needed to keep, obviously, Hitler protected because his grandson was going to go on to be the president of America, and his daughter, obviously, well, his daughters went on to be, one in particular, quite a famous, powerful person, Angela Merkel. So they needed the Fourth Reich to happen, but also you've got Warner von Braun. Now they wanted him to come across to America, but you know, and obviously he was the founder, really the godfather of NASA. But this was all planned a very, very long time ago.
But they're
You
working
know,
on rockets and everything, weren't they?
yeah, an alien craft, what we would consider alien craft.
Yeah.
Yeah, anti-gravity was an area they were looking at. Yeah, so you know, it's all orchestrated, and they just moved the Fourth Reich to America.
Did the Germans first have an alien craft then?
Yeah, we believe so. Yeah, yeah, that they were communicating with other beings, and that was where they were getting the technology from. So you know, if you look at the bell, I mean, that's you
That's
know,
it, the bell, yeah.
yeah, I mean that's fascinating, isn't it? And there are images of it everywhere, and they've been around a long time. So this isn't new AI stuff people are creating. These images have been around for you know, since the very time itself. So yeah, I mean, people believe that they were communicating via the Vril and the Thule Society, or Thule Society, as some people pronounce it. And of course, they were heavily involved in Antarctica. And we know from what Admiral Byrd wrote that there was, you know, as far as he was concerned, another civilization underneath the ice that were highly advanced. So yes, I think that this technology is here, has been here for a very long time, and whenever we've had an alien crash, a UFO crash like Roswell, for example, that is actually the government. That
Do you think
isn't
that a lot of them
beings.
are our own crafts?
Absolutely, because if you think about it, what we're saying is an alien craft can travel through numerous galaxies and solar systems, traveling, you know, at the well, way past the speed of light. You know, we're traveling at light years. You know, so they've got that technology. They can travel all of that distance. They're so advanced that they can travel infinitely, only to get to Earth and crash.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like giving your car to someone like Lewis Hamilton, and he drives around Silverstone Circuit in a record-breaking time. You ask him to go and park the car, and he hits a wall. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Whenever they get
No.
here, they always crash, but they manage to travel here, but without a scratch
Always.
on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's I think they're just reverse engineering technology, or they're being given blueprints or sharing technology with other beings, and that they you know, it's trial and error, that these things are perhaps a little bit too advanced for them to fully understand and control, and every now and again they have an accident.
Do you think we can time travel then?
Um,
Can we go
that's an
forward or back?
interesting question. Because people believe, scientists believe, that have studied this, people that understand quantum physics at a very high level, believe that it's possible to travel backwards in time, that
Right.
is possible, something that we could achieve today. But they don't believe we have the technology to travel into the future yet.
Because
But
if
my
we
argument
could,
with that
we could
is,
change things, couldn't we? Or change things.
my argument is, if we don't have the technology yet to travel into the future, how do we know in 100,000 years' time if they will then? And therefore, they would be able to travel back. So, it's a difficult question to answer, but there are some strange things that have happened. If you look at the work of Ingersoll Lockwood and his books, The Adventures of Baron Trump and The Last President, they do appear to suggest that time travel's taking place. They were the three files that John G. Trump never handed over when he raided Nikola Tesla's hotel room after he died. They picked the lock to his safe and trashed the place and handed all the files over to the FBI, apart from the ones on time travel. And then we have Ingersoll Lockwood writing a book about the adventures of Baron Trump, who time travels and goes into Agartha and meets another civilization with his mentor Don, and they live in the castle Trump. And then you've got The Last President, a story of a New York business tycoon who becomes out of nowhere, and to everyone's surprise, becomes the president of the United States.
Yeah.
So people do think that maybe that time travel research that Nikola Tesla was doing ended up in the hands of Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and that they are using it. Yeah. So who knows? But it's a fascinating subject because it's one that would explain an awful lot. And I do think that Hollywood used the revelation of method, where they show us what they're doing. They use science fiction to.
I'm going to say it. You only got to watch Star Trek, things like that.
Yeah, and I think Star Wars in particular is a favourite of mine. Star Wars for me, I'm watching Tartaria. I'm watching the Tartarian Empire. Maybe not quite as advanced as that, but that's what I'm seeing. I'm just seeing Tartaria everywhere. They're showing us the previous civilization, not a future one, because it starts off by saying in a galaxy, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, yes.
A long time ago, but it looks futuristic. So I think I understand it's really the story of Jesus, King Arthur. And of course, it's Luke Skywalker and Harry Potter are the same. So it's a traditional story. It's the hero's journey. But I think that science fiction contains incredible elements of truth to it. Back to the Future is another example when we're talking about time travel. They are showing you there the voltage you would need, what you would need to do it. They use a Tartarian building. They harness energy from the ether. It all in plain sight. They're showing you time travel, Tartaria, and Nikola Tesla's work into the ether, which was reverse engineering Tartarian tech, what they call antiquitech. So it's always there, always in plain sight. What are your thoughts on the royal family actually being reptilians?
Yeah,
it doesn't quite. It's not the best description in the world, reptilian. And this sort of falls into two subjects, really. One is shape shifting, and the other is the actual race that these beings are. First of all, shape shifting. They don't shapeshift. They always look reptilian. It's just they're able to control our perception. So what we see isn't what they are. And there are glitches occasionally, and people have seen this. The reptilian thing itself, we all contain elements of reptile in us. That's why we have a tailbone. It's got nothing to do with descending from apes, because apes don't have tails, nor do they have a tailbone. This is proof that we are reptilians, and under a microscope we have scales on our skin. And this is because we were taken from Neanderthal man, and we were mixed with the DNA from the people that created us, the people that are referred to as gods in the Old Testament. And these are the Anunnaki. Now, the Anunnaki are a reptilian race, and we contain elements of them. Because their bloodline is the Rothschild bloodline, which splinters off into Rockefeller, DuPont, Kennedy, so on.
Yeah.
They are all Anunnaki. They contain far more Anunnaki DNA than we do. So they are, I suppose, by definition, more reptilian
Right. Do
than
you
we
think
are.
we were born alien then?
No, we were made. We were cloned. So it's in the Bible, the story of Adam and Eve. The gods created us in their image. So the Sumerian text, which predates the Bible by 4,000 years, it tells the story of how we were created. The Sumerian texts are basically the Old Testament, but in more detail. So beings came from the sky, referred to as the Anunnaki, which just means beings from the heavens, and they took Neanderthal man, added some of their DNA, and created mankind as a slave race. And the Rothschilds were the most powerful family. They were the bloodline family of the
Right.
Anunnaki of Marduk, who is Amun Ra, the pharaoh, and the royal family are Rothschilds. Since Queen Victoria, they've been Rothschilds. So yes, the royal family are more alien than we are. They have different DNA and different blood. Did we really land on the moon? I've only got one answer for that. I wasn't there.
I like
It's
that.
impossible. It is impossible to know. I personally don't believe we did, but I can't say definitely. I can't say definitely to anything. But did man land on the moon? Well, they got rid of the technology that enabled them to get there. Sorry,
Yeah.
they're asking too many questions.
I know. We'll just go to that
what
one first. Did we
what
land on the moon?
Yeah, so we know that they destroyed the technology that enabled them to get there, and they couldn't really explain why they did that. Buzz Aldrin, before he died, said that we didn't during
Mm,
a press conference at a school. And also, if you see the astronauts when they returned, they don't look like they're celebrating anything. We've then got the Stanley Kubrick involvement, and how he helped them with showing. But they claim that in case it didn't happen, they still wanted to make a video.
correct.
Um, but you don't do that because that would have been lying to the public. They wouldn't have done that. So I personally think it was staged. I don't think we can get through the Van Allen belt. I don't think the moon is anything to land on. It appears to have been put there. I think it's metallic and probably an old spacecraft that's been pulled into position to enable us to have a tidal system and control them by our time and weather. So I think either it's that is what it is. There's nothing going on there. It's just a hunk of metal, or they are still on it. And if we did land on there, they might ask us very politely to leave now.
I'm sure that's the case as well.
But it
I'm
doesn't
definitely
rotate like
sure.
a planet, does it? It
No.
rotates like a wheel, so it's artificial.
Yeah, there's another question here. What are your thoughts on the flat Earth theory?
I think it's a torus, so I think it's a donut myself. I don't. You see, the problem is when we're given two options, which are flat Earth or spinning globe, then that's what you get to decide. You can choose one or the other, and I think when you're presented two options, that the truth is something entirely different. So I think that it appears to be flat because it's flatter than it is round. I think it looks like a donut, not one that's filled. I mean, the one with the hole in, a torus, and you've got the North Pole and the South Pole connected, almost like a vortex. So I think it's neither. Or if you look at it another way, it's a combination of the two. It appears flat because of its structure, but actually it's circular, but it's not a globe by any means. So I think it's a torus.
Right. Question from Steph, I think, here. Question for Guy. What's Guy's opinion on Titania?
Oh crikey!
Also,
Well, that's
well,
that's what I'm known for. I've written a book on it. I'm
that's
writing a
right.
sequel to it now. The book's called Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. Whereabouts in the world did it exist? Well, Tartaria itself is a mass of land which was Russia, Asia, and Eastern Europe. But their ethos travelled across the world. And we're talking about groups of people called the Tartars, the Aryans, the Scythians, the Turks, and the Moors. The Moors went through Europe into America. Most architecture in Europe and in Britain is built by the Moors, and they were from North Africa. They went over to America and built everything there. I have a CIA document on how it was wiped out, and I have books that are very old that explain in great detail about how they operated, their religions, how they built everything. So yes, it did exist, and it was the most powerful empire we've ever seen on the face of this earth.
Yeah, Steph would say Stanley Kubrick was knocked off as he knew too much.
Yes, but that was because of Eyes Wide Shut, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he included a scene that he wasn't supposed to, so he paid the price for that. But yes, he obviously knew far more than he should. But the final nail in his coffin was Eyes Wide Shut.
Right, yeah. What about the Spanish flu?
Right. What
Was
do you
that
want?
right or wrong, or did
Well,
it
it's
really
only.
happen?
Yeah, it happened. It's the same thing as COVID. There was no flu. COVID's
Is
not
it
real.
man-made?
Yeah, no, COVID doesn't exist. There is nothing. There's nothing at all, nothing.
Right.
And the Spanish flu was exactly the same. So if people look into what happened, and I wrote a chapter about this in the book you're reading, Conspiracy Theories. The American troops were vaccinated before they left America to travel to Europe to fight. And they vaccinated them all at the Rockefeller Institute. And when they got to Europe, they became unwell. A lot of them were having respiratory problems before they left, but they passed this on. This was transmitted. They were transmitting whatever was injected to them to other soldiers and other people.
Right.
And this spread right across Europe and into Britain. And the only reason it's called Spanish flu is because Spain was the only country at the time that wasn't censoring their press. So they were the first people to report it. But it wasn't a flu, and it wasn't Spanish. It was a virus that was injected into the troops, and it was designed to wipe out as many Tartarians as they could.
Oh, God.
It finished off what the First World War didn't, and the Second World War was about removing architecture and creating a home, if you like, for the Rothschilds, a country that they could own themselves under the Balfour Declaration, so they could traffic, move money, do whatever they needed to do.
They're a powerful organization.
Yes, well, they are. They run everything. Yeah, they're the most
If you get
powerful.
alongside of them, you've gone.
Yes, and I think most people are under the radar. But if you're up there and you cause them a problem, then you will pay for it. Yeah, absolutely. Or they will buy you out, or they'll get the press to do a hit job on you, like they did with David Icke. So if you poke them hard enough, they'll either make you look stupid, they will buy your support like they did with Joe Rogan, or they'll get rid of
Joe
you.
Rogan, yeah.
Yeah, they bought him out. So, now he's careful what he says, and he's a millionaire as a result.
Yes. Oh, yeah. He definitely is a millionaire.
But they did threaten his kids. So, I can
It must be awful
understand.
when you get to that stage in your life where you've been threatened a few times and said, look, just be careful what you say now from now on, or else you're going to go missing.
Yeah. And it was the fact they told his children, his daughters, what was going to happen that I think probably scared him.
It would scare anybody, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Have you ever, the job you do, have you ever been followed or threatened in any way?
Yeah. I get the odd person. I get some nasty comments, but no, I've not been followed. If something happened to me, then that would confirm what I've been saying. So it would look worse, wouldn't it? because
Yeah.
I would end up with more of a following. More people would read my books if people
Yeah.
found out. If everybody found out, if everybody in the world read Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids, they would see what is going on right now happened 250 years ago. Exactly the same with the pandemic, with the energy crisis, with the war starting, everything, absolutely everything. Um, the people being arrested for saying certain things, for putting things on social media. So if you like, freedom of speech, which is being targeted now, division through religion, war, genocide, pandemics. That happened 250 years ago. So if everybody in the world read Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids, I would not be here now. I would be directly responsible for crashing the World Economic Forum.
You can't even say anything on Twitter or anything like that now because they'll come round and get you.
Yeah, friend of mine was arrested.
Oh.
Yeah, he's still waiting for his court appearance. Yeah.
Hey, I hope he's not on remand then.
No. I mean, he videoed the whole thing on
Good for him.
CCTV. So yeah, and the police were really rough. One went to pull a gun on him, and the other one pepper sprayed him. Yeah, as soon as he opened the door, he talked to them. He said, could he go and get some clothes on because it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and they
Yeah.
sprayed him in the eyes. And then one went to they put their hand on the gun as if they were going to pull it on him. It looked like he was going to get tasered or at least threatened.
That's
And
terrible.
yeah, for something he'd said on Facebook.
He's got to be careful these days.
Mm.
Whatever you say on there.
Or don't stand up.
Yes. I know I've been told that many times. If anybody slags you off, don't retaliate.
No, you mustn't. But I think, what we were talking about a moment ago, I think it's important we share information. I'm restricted on Facebook, so very few people that follow me actually see my posts, but I still put them up every day.
Good for you. Good for you. I'm going to ask you about zombies.
Mm.
What are zombies? Where do they come from?
Well, zombies are reanimation. And there are lots of stories about zombies, but some of them actually refer to more, and this is more going into sort of South America. What they would do is they would inject people with a substance, and that would create the illusion that they were dead because their heart would almost stop. Now, going back years ago, we didn't perform autopsies like we do today, and they
No.
cost money, and you needed someone skilled to do it.
Yeah.
So a doctor would come along and say, yeah, there's no pulse, job done, and then the funeral's arranged. And what was happening was these people were then being dug up. So they were buried during the day, dug up in the evening, and then taken and used as forced labor, knowing that officially these people didn't exist. So they didn't have to pay them. They didn't have, it didn't matter what they did to them. And this was going on for some time, and they were called the zombies. And some people spotted them. They said they could see people working at night in the fields, and they appeared to be brain dead, just like zombies. And so that's where the story comes from. But you've also got the zombie virus, which are what we refer to as the NPCs, the people that walk around not really aware of what's going on. They still believe everything in the news. They still vote and think someone counted it. They'll not question the pandemic. They'll take a booster. They look up at the sky and see condensation that then disperses very slowly and becomes clouds, and then it rains. But they still think it's condensation. So people are walking around right now, I suppose, a little bit like a zombie, totally unaware of what's happening right now in front of their very eyes. So there are different definitions for that. What is a zombie? But traditionally we consider it to be, the reanimation of life, something that's come back from the dead, and
Yeah.
that relates to the old tales of these night workers, as they were known.
Oh my God. This question from Steffi here. The only thing with Ike is that he blames Freemasons for being powerful source behind the scenes, but he lives on the Isle of Wight, which is Freemason Central.
Yeah, none of that's actually true. Um, David David is quite right that very high up levels of Freemasons control a lot of what happens, but they're not right at the top. And David's never said that they are at the very top, but they are powerful behind the scenes. He doesn't live on the Isle of Wight; he lives in Derby, and Freemason Central is actually Great Queen Street in the centre of London. And David is not a Freemason. He did a little while ago have someone take a photograph from the back of one of his books and Photoshop it onto someone
Oh,
at a lodge in the Isle of Wight. But no, he's
ah,
not a Freemason.
that's probably
And
why.
for a joke, a few years ago, he was in America and he went past a Masonic lodge, and the door wasn't locked, and there was just a caretaker in there. And he asked if he could have a look round. The man didn't even speak to him. He didn't even acknowledge him. So he had a look round, and he went and sat in the lodge and sat on the worshipful master's throne and had his photo taken. That circulated, but no, Isle of Wight and Freemasons. There's no connection there. Every town and city has a lodge. Every one in the world.
That's a
Um,
lodge.
and the Isle of Wight is definitely not Freemason Central. That's Great Queen Street, and that's where I used to attend when I was a Freemason.
All right. Sounds good. What about Barack Obama then? There's always been stories about him and his wife. They always say his wife
Wife?
was a reptilian.
No, his wife's a man. His wife's Michael Vaughan Robinson.
Right.
They've been going out since high school, so that you will find images of them online together at high school. Yeah, Mike, they call him Big Mike. Barack
Ignite.
Obama is gay, and Michael Vaughan Robinson is who pretends to be Michelle Obama. You can probably find footage actually if you go onto BitChute. If you're in the UK, you'll need a VPN to do that, but it's
Right.
ever so straightforward. Go onto BitChute, which is the uncensored YouTube, and type in Big Mike, and you'll see footage of Michelle Obama dancing, wearing trousers and walking around on different shows, and you'll see what clearly identifies her as a man swinging around for everyone to see. But Michael Vaughan Robinson and the children, you should be able to find also on BitChute, possibly online. Obviously not Google; you'll never find anything there.
No.
But you should be able to find pictures of the children's real parents. I think they're Canadian.
All right. Just makes you wonder who's who out there, isn't it?
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Who
And
are
I wonder
real
what
and
Adolf would think that his grandson married a man.
oh my God.
Mm. Not that it bothers me. I couldn't care less. I've got friends that are gay. I just wondered what Hitler would have thought that his
Oh, God.
grandson
Yeah.
married a man.
I don't think he'd
What
be
would he
happy.
thought of that?
What about the Atlantis? Does that exist?
Well, we don't know, but certainly believe it did. I think that's what the Atlantic's named after.
Because there's always theories. Whereabouts is it? Where's it
Well,
located?
it's going to be in the Atlantic Ocean because it's called the Atlantic, and they didn't call it the Atlantic for
To put
they
it
didn't
somewhere
even
else.
pluck that name. It's named after Atlantis. Plato said that Solon told him that it was you went through the gates of Hercules to get to Atlantis. That's taking you straight into the Atlantic. And if you look at the Atlanteans, they had Rh negative blood, red hair or blonde hair, blue eyes or green eyes, and then look at the nearest landmass to where it was supposed to be. That takes you to the Basque region of Spain. It takes you to Ireland or the west of Scotland. They are the highest populations in the world of Rh negative blood, red or blonde hair, and blue or green eyes.
Very interesting.
Hmm. The only thing, oh, it's the same question.
Yeah. Right. I'm just looking in chat rooms. Anybody else has got any questions there? What about the Titanic?
The Olympic.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that was to set the Federal Reserve up, wasn't it? They got the Olympic tarted up and changed the name. I mean, it was an insurance write-off, wasn't it? Pretty much. And J.P. Morgan sticks all of his friends on it, and then it gets torpedoed, and that's it. There's no more block on the Federal Reserve. So it was done to create the Federal Reserve. JP Morgan was the biggest backer. JP Morgan was the only person not on it. He said he was ill, but he actually went on holiday. And everyone that disagreed with the Federal Reserve being created drowned. So very, very clever. Wicked, but very clever.
Very wicked. You find more out in the future years, and a lot from you as well, what you've gone into and to find all this information out.
Yeah, and the deeper you go, the harder it gets, because you then question everything. So once you're fully awake, everything changes. You can't even watch a film or walk around a town without seeing things or hearing things that you immediately know are fake, or something's been covered up, or they're showing you something in plain sight.
What about Nikola Tesla? Do you think he was born before his time?
I don't know if he was born at all, and that's a problem that I have, because there's no video footage of him. But there is of Edison, there is of Einstein, Westinghouse, other people that were around at the time, Marconi, and so on. I wonder why there is no video footage of him. And his museums say it's because they think he was shy. And my argument is, if he was shy, then according to his story, why were people paying him to give public lectures, paying him to attend fancy dinner parties, paying him to be interviewed on the radio and by the press, and giving lectures all over America? This isn't someone that's shy. Why isn't there any video footage of him? And they can't answer it.
I can say, do you don't think he existed then?
I think it's unlikely that he did. If he did, then he was working with Tartarian technology. I don't believe he was receiving information from Valiant Thor, that he was talking to Venus and the Venusians. I don't believe that. His mother said the same thing, but I don't believe it. His story's a little bit hard to believe. He gets into debt at college, he's gambling, and everyone thinks he's disappeared and he's drowned, and then he's back. He nearly dies when he's a child, and his dad says, if you get better, you can go to college and you won't have to be a priest. It's all a little bit unbelievable. And also with the files that I mentioned earlier on, he said he never wrote anything down. Well, if he didn't write anything down, how did they take his files? There weren't any files if he didn't write anything down. He didn't have any children. And that's brilliant, isn't it? Because there's no way of being able to contact his grandchildren to say, can you show me some photos of you? What did your granddad really do? Tell us about him. They always make sure, when it's someone like this, Epstein's another example, Napoleon, all of these people, they don't have Hitler, allegedly no children. Obviously, we know he had daughters, but allegedly no children. So it means there's no one to go to corroborate or substantiate anything at all. So it's always a red flag to me when they say they didn't have kids.
Yeah, because they said that they took all his files away.
Yeah, but he never wrote anything down. So what files? And also, if you look at the most common picture of Nikola Tesla, where you see his side profile, have a look at photographs of Frank Zappa side profile. It's the same person. So I think that Frank Zappa is the person that's portrayed Nikola Tesla, and that Nikola Tesla didn't exist. If he did exist, and I would like him to have, I really would, but if he did exist, then he was reverse engineering Tartarian technology. That is the only explanation for where this all came from. It has to have been Tartarian.
Right. Yeah, it just makes you bloody wonder, all them years ago, how things have changed over the years as well.
Yeah.
Go on. What about
No,
Agarth?
no.
Agarth.
Agartha?
Yeah, Agartha, yeah. Who or what is Agartha?
Well, it's the civilization beneath us. I think there are probably several. I don't think it's just Agartha, but it's the civilization that live underneath us, and that is who Admiral Byrd allegedly met. I think that that's also perhaps known as Shambhala. Um, so I think depending on your culture, you call it something else. But people across the world, going back thousands of years, have spoken about civilizations that live underground. And in Germany, I think up until the 1500s, I think it was then, actually banned in the 1500s. They banned the people on the surface doing business and trading with the civilization below, and they closed all of the entrances. Um, Shambhala, they say that you can't enter unless you are spiritually vibrating at a high frequency. You know, you have to be fully awake, pineal gland fully operational, um, to be and projecting nothing but love, no anger, no bitterness, no resent, no regret, nothing. You have to be totally pure and positive to enter, and then these entrances appear. But Agartha, the civilization beneath us, that's been written about for a very, very long time. So yes, I think people have fled underground on numerous occasions, and I think actually we might have been designed to live underground. Because if you think about it, um, certainly Caucasian people, a lot of us, not all, but a lot of us burn in the sun. So in certain parts of the world, we're not designed to live there, and in certain times of the year, we're having to take shade.
Yeah,
There's also some issue with gravity, I think, because we have problems with our backs. They compress as we get older, and a lot of us end up with back problems. And it's almost like we're not designed to live in this environment. So I think the oxygen level is perhaps too low, and may well have been tampered with, perhaps during the last Great Reset.
because they're always saying about the Antarctic, there's a way to get underground there,
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier on, Admiral Byrd. Yeah.
and it's flown in and come back out again. So there's
Mm,
massive cities there.
mm, yeah. And there are films about this too. Journey to the center of the earth, and Jules Verne, I think, has shared a lot of truth. So
Oh,
yeah, I
God,
think
yeah.
there are civilized. Yeah, we're one of numerous civilizations that live here.
What you're looking for in the future, then? What you're researching?
Tartaria, more research into Tartaria, because it's the biggest conspiracy of them all. And because it connects all of the other conspiracy theories together, all of them are connected to Tartaria. It's never ending, because you find a new conspiracy theory and it leads you, when you dig, back to Tartaria. All of them always lead you there. So I'm working on that at the moment, and it's going to be a sequel to my first book, to Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids, and that will be out back end of the year. So I've been looking at a bit more into the Moors, the real royal family, the real monarchy of Europe,
Yeah,
um, and I've been looking more into the technology, how they were heating homes and how they were charging electric vehicles while they were driving. And I'm talking about 250 years ago, driving around in electric vehicles, how the airships worked, and lighthouses, what they were really built for. So I'm going more in depth into Tartaria, and with a lot more evidence, CIA documents, FBI documents, records that Putin has released. Putin is really pushing Tartaria now. He
right.
started in 2012, but he last year released more documents, and I'm finding more evidence all the time. So I'm going to do a big reveal on Tartaria
Sounds
at the end of this
interesting.
year.
And Putin's releasing some of this stuff then.
Yeah, he released some in 2012, a corrected map of the world. He presented that to who should be the ruler of Tartaria right now. And yes, they're correcting the education system in Russia to restore Tartaria, and put the history back as it should be. So they're correcting the year, because the year's 1226, not 2026. They're
No.
correcting the year, they're correcting geometry, they're correcting mathematics, physics, and history, because it's all wrong. Our history is wrong, our science is wrong, our maths is wrong, everything, our language is wrong. Frequencies we listen to music on are wrong. He's correcting it all.
And he's been in power for so long now, over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll ever get rid of him.
No, no. But some people think he's been replaced by a clone. I hope not, because, you know, he's been doing some good work. So, you know, I'd like to think that it's still him, but we don't know. If he has been replaced, then we're in
We
trouble.
don't know, do we? No, we don't know.
No, so, you know, if he's been replaced, we are in a lot of trouble. So I'm just hoping that he hasn't, because he's the only person standing up right now. He's kicked all of the Western bankers like the Rothschilds out of Russia. You know, he's putting Tartaria back into the education system. He stood up against NATO. He stood up against Ukraine. You know, all the children they've taken from Russia, hundreds of thousands of children have gone missing. He stood up. He stood up and fought back. And then what did NATO do? Pointed warheads at him and started a war.
So what do you think about Trump in America then?
In what way?
Well, the way he's reacting now, power mad.
No, he's a puppet. He doesn't decide anything. He's just brash enough to be happy to be given the job. So no, he doesn't decide anything. He has no power at all. He has less power than you and I. The Rothschilds own him, and they own him through Israel. He's sending Israel billions of dollars, and has done since the Epstein scandal.
Yeah, I think there's more to come out of that Epstein scandal.
Well, they haven't released the videos. People talk about the files all the time, but they haven't released the videos. But with Trump, he's brash. He's narcissistic. You know, he doesn't care what he says. They put him in place. One, he owed them a lot of money, and an awful lot of money that he'd never been able to
He's
pay.
gone bankrupt so many times.
Yeah, and the Rothschilds bail him out each time, so he owes them awful lot of money that he'll never be able to pay back. But they don't want the money back. They just want a president that will do whatever they tell him to.
That's about right as well.
Same as Starmer. They're all owned. They're all owned by the Rothschilds. The first president they bought was France, and then from there it's grown.
Right. And Starmer is the same.
Oh yeah. He has the same level of authority as a Do Not Tumble Dry label. So you do have more power than he has. You.
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't decide anything. He doesn't have the power to do that.
This makes you wonder. So you're saying that the Rothschilds run the world?
Yeah. Always have.
They decide what to do, how to run the world.
Yeah, and right now they want rid of us. So that's why we're going through Agenda 2030.
Right. 2030. Right. So do you think things are going to get worse in the future for us, for mankind?
Yeah, very much so. And then it will come to a head. We'll have to stand up, make some tough decisions, and then we'll come out the other end. But the people that aren't aware of what's going on are probably going to see another pandemic, maybe another medical intervention. They might be offered more boosters, more vaccines for different things. They're going to crank 5G up. They're going to implement 6G, and we're going to lose a lot of people. But the ones that are wide awake, we should be okay. But we're just going to have to be very careful what we eat. You know, we can't go to supermarkets or fast food chains, obviously. We've got to be very careful what we eat, what we drink. We've got to be careful what we watch. We've got to avoid going to the doctor to take jabs. We need to look at alternative medicine, which I do. I don't go to the doctor, neither does my wife. So we've just got to be very careful. And if you want to do something, then you need to go onto the internet, look at the companies that support the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization, and stop buying things from them. Stop giving them your money. Only support businesses that take cash. Stop using places like Starbucks, for example. If they don't take cash, don't shop there. Even if you're paying by card, don't shop there. And support independent traders and keep cash alive.
Yes, I totally agree with that as well. Cash. Yeah, I went somewhere today and they said, "Oh, we only take cash." I said, "That's fine.
Good.
That's fine by me." I went for, believe it or not, I went for some fish and chips and they went, "We don't do cards. It's cash only." I said, "That's
brilliant.
fine. I've got cash on me." Bump.
And you see, people will say, people have got to a point where they don't want to go to a cash point because they've got to walk for 5 minutes, or they don't want to go to the independent coffee shop because it's a bit further, or they don't want to go to a greengrocer's and a butcher's and a baker's because they'll have to walk more, or it'll take longer. I'm thinking, what are you doing with this time? The time you're saving by not going to these places, what are you doing with it? You're scrolling on social media. Turn the bloody thing off.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and make some really important sacrifices that might take 5 minutes of your life.
I've noticed that as well. You could go out for something to eat in a restaurant and everybody's on the phones.
Yeah, you
There's
just want to throw them.
Communicating now.
No. And they're the people that are up to date with their vaccines. We're not going to change them. They are programmed, mass programmed now, and we're not going to change that. That's not going to happen. We've just got to be there for the people that are awake, share information amongst ourselves, and people that are just waking up, help them, and give them the support that they need, and accept the fact that at least 60% of the population cannot wake up and won't wake up. So you don't argue with them, don't get into debates with them. Just say what you got to say and walk on, because that you're not going to make any difference. Doesn't matter what you say, you're not going to make any difference. Your energy is better spent elsewhere.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, that's about it. I think I've run out of questions. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's been good. There'll be a lot of people will disagree with both of us tonight.
Don't waste your time with them.
Oh, I won't. Don't worry.
No, because there are so many people out there that are just waking up, that want more information, that want our help. It's not worth spending time, as I said a moment ago. It's just not worth getting into a debate with somebody that is going to roll up their sleeve and take the next booster. It isn't worth it. And I've tried doing it, and I think some people just aren't supposed to be woken up. And some people say that where we're going next, after all this is over, after Agenda 2030 is over and we move on, that we're going to return to how things were in Tartaria, that we're going to be in a higher state of vibration. It's going to be a lot more positive, more oxygen in our atmosphere again. We're going to restore balance. And they say that there isn't enough room for everyone to come with us.
Oh, right.
The people we need to leave behind are the ones that believe everything the BBC says and take the boosters. And they are the people that won't get what we're talking about. And it's not for them. And as horrible as it is, we just got to accept the fact that, we're going to lose a lot of people. Some of them are going to be close to us. But we can't save everyone. And if you're not designed to be woken up, then it's better to let them sleep.
Oh, got it. Of course it is. Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, so thank you again for coming on the show.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for everybody in the chat room for the questions. Without them, it's always nice to have some different questions. And you take care. Have a lovely week.
And you.
Weather's now. Hope the weather will pick up.
Well, they were out yesterday, so we had rain today. They chemtrailed yesterday, so today's not been great, but I haven't seen them out today.
No, I haven't seen them out today.
No, so hopefully we'll be all right tomorrow.
All being well.
Yes.
You take care.
And you, thanks
Right.
for having me
Thank
on.
you. Thank you
All right,
very
take
much.
care.
You
You're
too.
welcome.
Bye.
Bye for now. Bye bye.
Bye.